Hey everybody, Cptn.Canuck here, and today I want to talk a little bit about the meta. We're about a week away from ESL One Kuala Lumpur, and a couple weeks back Valve dropped 7.34E, and I thought it was kind of 7.34 Basically nothing changed. There was a few minor tweaks to a few broken TI heroes. Bristleback, CK, Willem, Huerta, Spirit Breaker all got slightly nerfed, handful others. But for the most part, nothing has really changed. So we're heading into a new tournament, and it looks like the meta is basically going to be what it was for TI. But, you know, there's still going to be some changes, there's still going to be some adaptations, and we could even see towards the end of TI there was still some new innovation going on where teams and players were trying new things that they hadn't really tried throughout the tournament that I think will start to kind of rear their heads here. You know, the meta is always evolving just as the players kind of get bored of playing one thing or they figure out a solution to something else. So let's look forward a little bit and see what this tournament is going to look like. Now, I'm looking at Dota 2 Pro Tracker here, which is a dope website. Go check it out. Really good for creeping on pros and seeing what they're playing and when they're playing it. Lots of great stuff here, so it gives you a good snapshot of what's going on. So first we're going to talk top overall heroes, just everything that's like succeeding really well in pubs. Then we're going to talk heroes by position, and then look at kind of the overall shape of the meta to come. So starting right here, top overall heroes, first place you've got Arc Warden. Now, I don't think this is indicative of what you're going to be seeing at ESL One. There's a lot of heroes like this that tend to top out the pub meta, that tend to be really strong, really high up in the rankings, but they're only there because they're good surprise last picks. They mess with pubs. They're good at breaking apart uncoordinated teams, not so good in a competitive draft where people can see things coming, ban other things out, and prepare and play together as a team. So you're going to see heroes like Arc Warden here, not actually going to be all that viable. Visage, kind of the same thing, 52.7% win rate, but probably not going to be that way in competitive. People are going to be able to see it coming, deal with it accordingly. And likewise, you'll see some other heroes like that. Now, I think the interesting thing here, Treant Protector right up top, 56.6% win rate, 54.8 overall. That's really strong numbers, and it is being played a lot. You can see nearly 6,000 games on this hero. I think this one will be highly contested at TI. Or at ESL One. Chen was highly contested at TI, especially in the later rounds when Gaming Gladiators were playing it a lot. Celery was really broken on that hero, and I think a lot of people are trying to emulate that now. They're trying to pick that up, add it to their repertoire, and it is becoming very scary. Spectre, we all know the story with Spectre here. Very, very strong. Blade Mail is very good right now, and Spectre is a tanky carry that can now fight very rapidly and pick up those Blade Mails. No surprise there. The next pick, though, is very surprising. 53.5% overall win rate on Slardar. Now, Slardar is not a hero that I think I really remember seeing even a single game of at TI, but he's popping off in the pubs right now, and he didn't even get changed in patch 7.34E. Like, there was no buff, there was no nerf, nothing, and I think this might just be kind of a player shift thing. You know, somebody started playing it, somebody else realized it was good, someone started picking it up. And it makes a lot of sense. He's a very tanky hero. He's a natural Midas buyer, which is great in this meta. He's a really good lane dominator. Since they buffed his ultimate, it's a lot easier to kind of track down your lane opponent. They're farming a small camp, chase him, beat him up with the puddle on the ground, the puddle trail that he leaves. I think this hero is actually pretty good. I think this one will be one that we'll start seeing, and people will be like, oh, where did this come from? But, well, it's kind of been there all along. It's kind of been good and strong. Jakiro, whatever, that's just a popular, flexible pick. Lone Druid, I think we all kind of saw this coming, really strong towards the end of TI. Night Stalker is also, I think, potential to be a surprise. Another bunch of heroes here. We won't talk too much about them, but just kind of wanted to give you guys an overall overview of kind of what's new to the top of the board and what is what's kind of expected. Now we're going to go position by position here and just talk a little bit more about some of the exciting new stuff that we're seeing coming up, starting with the 5 positions here. Like I said, Jakiro, whatever. We can forget about that. Treant Protector, Chen, already talked about that. I think Pugna is going to be the interesting one, though. I think there's been some of this Pugna play in the last year, way back to when like OG was running it. They like ran it as a 5 with the Tranquil Boots, and they were just like, you know, keeping their carry alive. It was great. It was revolutionary. I think you're going to start seeing some of that. I think the meta is starting to shift a little bit towards more of a death ball, more of a kind of tower pushy type of thing with this Chen, with this Treant, etc. And Pugna just helps that a lot. He provides sustain to your team, makes it really hard to team fight into you, and he takes towers. Beautiful. Phoenix, Lich, AA, I think these are all pretty well expected. The one that's kind of surprising here is Gyrocopter. I think, you know, this is also a bit of a good pub chaos hero. He really lets you just kind of chase people down, do a ton of damage. You can do a lot solo as a 5 position. But might be able to sneak its way into a few games at ESL One, so look out for that. The Gyro 5, that might be interesting. Jumping over to 4 position here, I think this is where that Pugna is really going to shine, 55.2% win rate in this role, and this is probably where you're going to see most of the Pugnas. Instead of being in kind of that more 5 supporty role, it'll be more in that kind of 4 get an item or 2, hit towers, kind of contribute with your team type of thing. Spirit Breaker's still very, very powerful even after the nerfs. He's getting played a lot. Shadow Shaman, very interesting pick. Wasn't too popular at TI. Is a bit of a pub menace, which might inflate these numbers a little bit. He just takes towers by himself, really easy to play. So I think that's probably not something you need to worry about too much. Everything else here, pretty bog standard. I don't think the 4 position really got shaken up in this patch. Jumping over to the off lane here, we've got that Slardar pick we talked about. That's new and exciting. I think that one will really be kind of hotly contested as we go into it. Wraith King has kind of been very popular in this role as an off lane. You can just kind of stick him there, and it's just so hard to go kill him. Like, if you commit too many heroes to him, yeah, he just dies, he reincarnates, his team teleports in. It's just so hard. He just farms up. He just exists, and it's nearly impossible to deal with. The Night Stalker, I think, is going to be the really interesting one here. Night Stalker, he saw a couple games of play at TI, but was not, like, a defining pick. And I think now, as we start to see a bit of this death ball, with the fact that his shard allows him to kind of eat these creeps, and then he's really good at getting onto supports, kind of breaking open the back line, making it really easy to spot out and initiate a fight with his night vision and stuff, it makes him a really good counter to death ball stuff. You wouldn't typically consider that because he doesn't have wave clear, he doesn't have like big AoE abilities, but he really allows you as a team to fight into teams that are deathballing. You can spot out those supports and those squishy mid laners and stuff that you need to get on top of, and with a Blink Dagger, he almost secures it. Other kind of things and interesting heroes of note here, Axe is a good time on Radiant. I think that's just kind of because he's farming. Lycan, I think this hero is approaching a weird balance point. Lycan has always been a pub menace with very high win rates in high MMR, and that has come down a lot. He's sitting at an exact 50% win rate across Radiant and Dire, but he's gotten some buffs that I think will make him just kind of a better balanced hero. He used to just be a pub menace because he was just a split pusher, and I think now with him being changed to Universal, with his shard still being really good, allows you to kind of split push side lanes and get a bit of extra gold across the map, this Lycan hero could actually break out and surprise. I think it just is going to take somebody to kind of figure him out, figure out a build, and just kind of go for it in a couple games, and this could really pop off. So, a couple interesting things here. Offlane, I would say mostly the same as TI, though. Mid lane, this is where things start to get a little interesting. Lone Druid is topping out the leaderboards here for sure. It was pretty popular at TI. It got played in a handful of games, mostly by teams that kind of had a Lone Druid specialist. I think it's getting a lot more popular and a lot more respect now because people have seen, oh my god, it's insane. What do you do against it? So I was looking, a ton of mid laners are playing Lone Druid, even ones that aren't typical Lone Druid players. He's just way too strong to ignore. This is going to be a top pick, maybe first phase ban throughout the tournament here. Kunkka, Zeus, all this stuff is pretty well understood. Earthshaker at TI. The Coddle picks are interesting. I think this is mostly a pub pick. This is mostly something that players are going to be just playing in their pubs to cause a lot of havoc. But now you've got like Tinker Dazzle and stuff that are kind of popping up here as well. Lina, that are looking decently strong. And these are heroes that I don't think were super popular at TI. Tinker did not see a lot of play. Dazzle did see some play, did see some offlane play. It was one of those things where everybody kind of knew it was broken, so it got banned out a lot, and people just kind of forgot about it, didn't get played a lot in the later stages of the tournament. But really cool hero, and I think that kind of Dazzle, Tinker, Arcane, Blink, Survive Forever, Shallow Grave Yourself, Refresh bullshit, it's gonna persist. It's gonna happen a few times at this event, probably especially in the group stages. Moving on to the carries, I think this is where things get really interesting, and this is where I kind of noticed a trend as I was looking at it, is you have a really big disparity in Radiant versus Dire win rates on certain carries. And I think it's really on the carries that need a lot more farm are finding way more success on Radiant. You see this with like Luna, 52 to 48%. There's a 4% spread between the sides of the map. Anti-Mage, it's even worse. It is a 10% split between different sides of the map. Slark, it's even more drastic at 11%. So I think these heroes that really kind of need their space to kind of get up and running, get their start in the game, are having a much harder time on Dire. And heroes that are able to activate early, fight early, and participate with their team are having a way better time on Dire. You can see Spectre, You think of Spectre as a farming carry, but with her new ultimate, she's really a very active participatory carry in Dota now, and that Dire win rate has jumped up to 53%. Faceless Void obviously wants to be using that Chronosphere off of cooldown, 51%. Naga Siren, this is a little interesting to me because typically Naga is considered more of a farming hero, but actually slightly favored on Dire, so maybe there's something there, or maybe people are just fighting more with Naga. So I think this trend is going to be a little bit interesting to keep an eye on throughout the course of ESL. Actually, another example here as I'm rambling on, Ursa at the bottom, 46.3% for him. On Radiant, which is, again, more farm-oriented, but more action-oriented, Dire 50.2%. So I really think that there's going to be this kind of dichotomy of, teams on the Dire side are going to angle more aggressively. They're going to look for heroes that can participate and chase down the Radiant team, fight them aggressively, break up that farming, and then that kind of safe triangle and that safe jungle that Radiant has will be favored by teams that want to go for more of a farming carry that scales into the late game, Luna, Anti-Mage, Slark, whatever. Slark being up here is interesting as a carry. He's not typically considered that crazy a carry. And I think this might just be a bit of a pub thing. You have a lot of opportunities to outskill your opponents in pubs by playing Slark. You have the Ags, you can jump away, you're very slippery, you're hard to kill. But maybe it sneaks its way into the qualifiers. Maybe some people feel comfortable on it and they say, hey, give me the fish, and they go with it. But Spectre, same top carry that was played a lot at TI, will continue to be there. I think there's some other interesting picks in here. Monkey King was not seen a lot there as well, and even TA carry has kind of fallen out of favor as well a little bit. But we've seen a couple big major drops, like Muerta carry is down in the dumps, down at 47% across both. I think some of those nerfs did things there. There's some other niche picks. I wanted to see what the data was on Willow, but it doesn't appear that anybody is playing Dark Willow as a carry anymore, so maybe those nerfs worked as well. But yeah, I think overall the shape of the meta to come is going to be very similar to TI, but I think it's going to be a little bit more Deathball focused. I think that Gaming Gladiators kind of displayed that you can play Dota in a way that is a lot more aggressive, a lot more snowbally than people thought. People thought with the big map, we got to go Midas, we got to farm it out, we got to wait the game out. But I think Gaming Gladiators proved, no, you can still win a game in 25 minutes. You can still win a game with a big snowballing creep wave. You can still just hit towers and towers and towers and go objective to objective. And I think that a lot of people are catching on to this. I think some of these surprise picks like Trient that are kind of coming up, the Jakiro and stuff as well, are really kind of contributing to this mindset where people are saying, okay, hey, actually we can be a little bit more aggressive than we thought. We can jump into the fights a little bit more. Night Stalker, kind of the same thing. Hey, let's bring it to them. Let's chase them down. Let's fight them. Let's kill them. And so I think this meta is going to be a little bit more active, a little bit more push-focused, and I think there's going to be some opportunities for some interesting strategies. Potential sleeper picks here, I kind of just wanted to talk through my idea of what could surprise at this event, and kind of clinging on to that meta idea, I think that Lycan and his Wolves might be a potential sleeper there. I talked about that a little bit when we were going over the offlane stuff. I think with his Shard, he just has the ability to kind of keep lanes pushed. If he's paired up with something like a Chen, you could get really nasty. And there's some carries that would be absolutely disgusting if you got an Ags kind of midway through the game. Spectre would be really great with that. I mean, if you manage to fit him into a draft with a Slardar, you go to Lycan mid or something like that, you could see something really crazy there. Wraith King as well. There's a lot of heroes where that Wolf Bite I think would work really well. Night Stalker is my second one. I know he's kind of right at the top of the charts here. We've talked about him a couple times, but he was not seen a lot in competitive. I think he's kind of seen as a bit of a pub hero that dominates pubs because he thrives on chaos. He thrives on kind of pulling teams apart, and that's harder to pull off in competitive. But I do believe that kind of as we see this, more aggressive meta come in, Night Stalker is going to be kind of a bit of a counter to that. They're going to say, okay, yeah, well, if you want to fight, now it's dark and you can't see anything, and we're coming for you. I think Darkseer is another hero. We haven't talked about this hero at all, but his win rates are crazy. If you look at him down in the niche pick section here, 57.8% win rate across a lot of positions, and I think he's got some flexibility in the draft. People talk about Darkseer a lot as like an offlaner. He's always been kind of an offlaner. I think there's potential to play at mid and 5 position. I was tinkering with it a little bit the other night. I was playing a 5 Darkseer where you max Surge, you get your carry just running people down, and it's good. I think it could go all the way. So I think there's some opportunity for a team to maybe innovate a little bit with Darkseer and then turn it into this flex pick where, hey, are we going to run it off lane? Are we going to run it 5? Are we going to run it mid? What are you doing with the draft? And because he's universal, he's so flexible with how he builds and what he gets. I think we could see a lot more Darkseer at this event than we saw at TI. Now, my final two sleeper picks, Witch Doctor. I think this hero's got a lot of potential. I talked about this a little bit in the Nouns versus Tundra series video that I did a little while ago. I think the offlane potential for Witch Doctor is huge. I think he fits this kind of snowbally, deathbally meta. He's got that heal sustain. He can build aura items. He's really strong in that regard. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on the flexibility that you get by drafting a Witch Doctor early in your draft. I think he could go kind of for both angles there. Now, the final one, and I think my spiciest pick, is going to be a Bounty Hunter. I think Bounty Hunter has the potential to be an amazing 5 position in this meta, and not really anybody is playing him. I think if we look back to the hard supports here, I saw him a little bit listed as a niche pick here, and his numbers are good. As a 5 position, he's nearing a 55% win rate in top tier 7K pubs, and he's awesome with the way that Janata works now, where it stuns out of invis. You've got a lot of potential to just do really obnoxious harass in lane where you're just hitting people for a ton of damage, backing away. And then once he gets 6, he just buffs up the rest of the team. He gets those track kills, everybody else gets gold, and that snowball happens a lot quicker. If you pair him with a really aggressive lineup, say you've got a Night Stalker in your off lane, you've got maybe a Muerta or a Willow or something as your 4 position, and a really active mid laner, I think a Bounty Hunter will just help you steamroll over games. This is a hero that, like, it's tricky, you know? You think that Invis heroes are kind of they're meh, but I think the right team with the right aggressive mindset could really use Bounty Hunter, and he could surprise us in this qualifier. So anyways, those are my hot takes. That's my overview. That's what I think is going to happen at ESL One. Let me know what you think down below. What are some kind of sleeper pick heroes that you think could surprise and shock us at ESL One? What do you think from TI is going to get kind of downgraded? And what do you think from TI is going to just stay? What do you think is going to be the disgusting hero that everybody goes directly to? Let me know what you think down below. Thanks so much for watching. You guys are awesome. I love you. I'll see you again next time. And cheers.